By talking about Halo Trust, I saw you in Angola when you retraced your mother's footsteps. In your speech yesterday, you reflected some of her words. You said, "I'm not a politician, I'm a humanitarian," and in your case, a soldier. I mean, this charity and what it's doing here, it just means so much to you, and you have such a connection to it because of your mother and 1997.
Yes, I mean, what Halo Trust is doing is absolutely incredible work. The vast majority of the work that's being done is from legacies decades ago, conflicts that began and still are continuing to some extent, but the cleanup process is so long. So the legacy of conflict is a huge thing which Halo has to deal with, and trying to find the funding to be able to do that in parts of the world that there is no conflict, but the mess is left behind. And here we are now in Ukraine, where Halo is obviously being deployed in this newest of conflicts. And it's sad. It's very, very sad because, nearly 30 years ago since my mother was in Angola, here we are again in a new conflict, knowing full well that the cleanup of this, separately from the loss of life and the scars on the land, on the communities, on the people, the cleanup that is going to be needed here is going to be well into the next 2, 3, maybe even 4 decades. So yeah, it's sad, it's depressing, but thank God for Halo Trust and for all the people and the donors, specifically calling out Howard Buffett and the huge amount of funds that he's given to Halo Trust. So yeah, it's the world mobilizes and good people come together to try to fix some of these problems.
Harry, I'd like to ask, as a dad, when you look at the state of the world, you see what's happening here, you see what's happening in Iran, what do you think about the world your children are going to grow up into? The sort of fears that we might be hurtling towards World War III, and I wondered if that is something that worries you.
I think that, look, there's the here and now in Ukraine. You mentioned Iran. I would say it's across the entire Middle East and huge other parts of the world, Africa. There are conflicts everywhere. There is an immense loss of life and psychological impact that's having on people, civilians, citizens, communities, people who are caught up in all of these conflicts, people who are being specifically targeted in these conflicts. So, the answer to your question, Jerome, I think everybody's scared, everybody's worried for what is potentially around the corner, but also what is happening now. But at the same time, what I'm continually told, what I see is the vast majority of the global population want to see an end to these conflicts. Less conversations about war, and more conversations about peace and how we can come to the table and have these conversations. So yes, the future does look bleak, but I think that hopefully, with the way that the world is reacting to the conflicts that are happening, that we can see an end to these sooner rather than later.
Let's talk about your speech yesterday. I mean, I thought it was a significant intervention. I mean, you said you weren't a politician, but you mentioned American leadership, Russian leadership. Now you're no longer a working royal, and heaven knows there's been enough comment about that over the years. Do you feel like emboldened? The shackles are off, free to say things about the world you couldn't say before 2020?
Look, I think the Overton window has shifted somewhat over the last 5 years, and I think that at the same time, it's what would worry me is if we live in a world where anyone in my position or anybody anywhere can't speak about the very things and the realities that we're seeing, and to hold those in leadership positions accountable, but also be able to try to encourage more support where support is needed. So I think there's a lot to be done. As far as Shackles, from my perspective, we need to be collectively, as a global community, we need to feel empowered to be able to speak truth to power. It's really that simple. It's bad enough in today's world feeling gagged and saying that you can't say these things and can't say that, and that everything becomes political. I fundamentally disagree with that. What we are witnessing and what we are seeing is a humanitarian catastrophe in multiple parts of the world, and people are speaking up, and people will continue to speak up. And I would encourage more people to do the speaking up, because, as I said, the vast majority of people want to see an end to these conflicts and an end to this endless division that is largely being created online.
Harry, do you recognise that phrase, not a working royal? I mean, it strikes me, you're obviously from the royal family, you're here doing a trip, bringing attention to a really important cause that risks being forgotten. Do you recognise that description of you?
No, I will always be part of the royal family, and I'm here working and doing the very thing that I was born to do. And I enjoy doing it. I enjoy being able to do these trips and come and support the people that I've met before, the friends that I've made, and hopefully bringing attention to issues that, for one reason or another, drop out of the news because something else has popped up. But I'm grateful to all of you guys being here and telling these stories that so desperately need to be told. I understand focus will shift to different places, but ultimately, as I said, what I see, what I hear, and what I learn is that the vast majority of people, whether you're in the UK or whether you're anywhere else in the world, want to see proper leadership, and they want to see an end to these conflicts, whether that's through diplomacy, however we can bring these conflicts to an end, for the sake of everybody now, but also for the future of younger generations coming through.
Do you think any of this is going to have an impact on the big state visit next week?
Any of what?
Any of what you've said here will have an impact on a big state
visit?
visit?
I don't think so. Not at all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, thank you.
Let me ask you something. When was the last time you saw a member of the British royal family, and I mean actually saw them, stand in front of cameras in a war-torn country answering tough questions about global conflict, humanitarian catastrophe, and the future of our children, off the cuff, from the heart, without a teleprompter, without a script, without a PR handler whispering in their ear? Go ahead. Take your time. I'll wait. Yeah, that's what I thought. Because the answer, if we're being completely honest, is that the institution that claims to represent Britain to the world, the very monarchy that its cheerleaders in the tabloid press would have you believe is indispensable, cannot produce a single working member who could do what Prince Harry just did in Ukraine. Not one. And yet, every single day, those same tabloid mouthpieces and their army of obsessive online critics, the ones who have made it their full-time, unpaid hobby to tear down Harry and Meghan, wake up, fire up their keyboards and ask, who does Harry think he is? Well, today we're going to answer that question definitively. Sit back, because this one is going to be good. Prince Harry travelled to Ukraine, not to pose for a photo op, not to smile, wave and collect a thank you bouquet from a carefully selected group of children positioned by a press secretary. He went there representing the Halo Trust, the legendary landmine clearance organisation that his mother, Princess Diana, made famous when she walked through those minefields in Angola back in 1997. And while he was there, reporters gathered around him, real journalists asking real questions. And what followed was something we almost never see from anyone connected to that palace in London. He spoke, not in rehearsed sound bites, not in carefully pre-approved messaging cleared by 5 different communications teams. He spoke like a human being, a father. A man who has seen the world, who carries the weight of his mother's legacy, and who genuinely, viscerally cares about the people left behind when the news cameras move on to the next story. He talked about the clean-up after conflict, how the devastation left by landmines lasts not years, but decades. He talked about how nearly 30 years have passed since Diana walked those Angolan minefields, and here we are again. New conflict, same heartbreak, same long road of cleanup that will stretch into the next 2, 3, maybe even 4 decades for the people of Ukraine. It's sad, he said. It's very, very sad. And you know what? You believed him. Because it wasn't said from behind a palace balcony. It wasn't filtered through a press release. It was said by a man standing on the ground where it matters, carrying the grief of someone who has been doing this work his entire life. That, right there, is the difference between performing royalty and being a royal in the truest sense of the word. Now, one of the journalists, and credit where it's due, this was a sharp question, pressed Harry on the not a working royal label that the British press loves to slap on him like some kind of punishment badge. And Harry's response? Flawless. He said plainly and without any defensiveness, "No, I will always be part of the royal family, and I'm here working and doing the very thing that I was born to do." Let that sink in for a second. He's not bitter. He's not raging. He's not crying to anyone about what was taken from him, though Lord knows he has every right to. He simply said, "I was born to do this, and I'm doing it." No taxpayer funding, no security paid for by the British public, no palace machinery propping him up. Just Harry on the ground in a country at war, shining a light on a cause that the world is in danger of forgetting because, as he put it, something else has popped up. And isn't that just painfully true? The news cycle is merciless. Ukraine dominated headlines for months, and now it's competing with a dozen other crises. People are suffering, and the world's attention keeps sliding away. Harry went there to be part of the solution, to use his voice, his platform, his presence to drag that spotlight back where it belongs. Meanwhile, back at Kensington Palace, what's happening? What urgent humanitarian mission are the taxpayer-funded members of the working royal family embarking on this week? What bold, unscripted, from-the-heart statement are they making about landmines or civilian casualties or the children growing up in rubble? Crickets, as usual. Here's something that should make your blood boil. And I say this with love for all of you who have been paying attention. The royal family's media mouthpieces and their rabid fan club online have been losing their minds over Harry's continued humanitarian work. The argument, if you can even call it that with a straight face, seems to be that Harry and Meghan have no right to be doing charity work, as if the Windsor family holds a monopoly on compassion, as if kindness requires a royal warrant. Let me repeat that back to you so you understand how absurd it is. People are angry that Harry and Meghan are helping others. They're angry about the Halo Trust trip. They're angry about Meghan's community initiatives and advocacy work. They're furious that 2 people who step back from working royal duties have the audacity to keep working. But here's the thing these critics conveniently forget. Meghan was doing humanitarian work long before she ever set foot in Britain. Long before she knew who Harry was. Before she'd ever been photographed at Wimbledon or curtsied to a queen, she was on the ground doing real work, advocating for women, for communities, for causes that needed a champion. This is not new for her. This is who she is. And Harry has been shaped by a lifetime of service. From his military career to his Invictus Games to his mental health advocacy, this man has never stopped. Losing his HRH title didn't switch off his humanity. Leaving the institution didn't delete his conscience. Moving to California didn't erase 20-plus years of deeply committed humanitarian effort. So when the royal family's cheerleaders clutch their pearls and shriek that Harry and Meghan are stealing the spotlight or using charity for attention, ask yourself, attention for what? For landmine clearance in Ukraine? For veterans who are struggling with PTSD? For children's mental health? Oh, the horror. Somebody stop them. One of the most powerful moments in that Ukraine interview came when Harry was asked whether leaving his working royal role had freed him, had the shackles come off, so to speak more openly about global politics and world events. And Harry gave an answer that was, frankly, more sophisticated than most politicians manage. He acknowledged that the Overton window, the range of what's considered acceptable public discourse, has shifted. But rather than taking a victory lap about his own freedom, he flipped the question into something bigger. He said what should worry all of us is a world where anyone, in any position, is told they can't speak about the realities they're witnessing. A world where accountability becomes impossible because everything gets labelled political and therefore off-limits. We need to feel empowered to speak truth to power, he said. It's really that simple. Read that again. Speak truth to power. This is a man who took on one of the most powerful institutions in the world, who sat across from Oprah and told the world what he'd witnessed inside those palace walls, who wrote a memoir and named names and paid the social and familial price for it, who knows more than almost anyone alive what it costs to say things that powerful people don't want said. And yet here he is in Ukraine, still saying things, still using his voice, still showing up. The British press, the same press that ran coordinated smear campaigns against Meghan from before she was even engaged, the same newspapers currently under legal scrutiny for phone hacking and worse, they want Harry to be quiet. They need him to be quiet. Because every time he opens his mouth and says something real, it highlights exactly how hollow and performative the institution they've dedicated themselves to protecting actually is. He won't go quiet. And good. There's something almost poetic and deeply emotional about watching Harry stand in Ukraine and invoke his mother's memory. Diana walked into those Angolan minefields in 1997 and changed the global conversation about landmines almost overnight. She was told, by the very establishment that Harry has now left, that she was meddling in politics, that it wasn't her place, that she should smile, wave and stay in her lane. She didn't, and the world is better for it. Nearly 30 years later, her son stood on similar ground, carrying that same mission, asking the same questions, demanding the same accountability, and being told, once again, by establishment figures and their tabloid allies, that he should stay in his lane. He won't, and the world will be better for it. Diana was called the People's Princess. And while titles are just words, there is something undeniably true in the way people across the globe respond to Harry. Not because of a crown, not because of a title, but because when he speaks, you can feel that it's real. When he shows up, you know he actually means it. In a world drowning in polished, focus-grouped, PR-sanitized public figures, that realness is revolutionary. If this video spoke to you, if you're tired of the one-sided narrative and you want content that actually holds the real story, hit that subscribe button. Join this community. We're not going anywhere, and neither is Harry. Like, comment, share this video, because the algorithm buries the truth and we need your help getting it out there. Drop a comment below. What moment in Harry's Ukraine interview hit you the hardest? I'll see you in the next one.